Within a few weeks of your return to Accreton, the church announces a new Hierophant, elected by the elders and saints of the church. It's Sir Twimsby, now Hierophant Twimsby, whose first edict is that every person in the service of the church must purchase a pet, and everyone else is strongly encouraged to do so. It just makes you nicer, he explains in his edict. As the proud owner of Leo, you find that people think a little more highly of you now that your pet ownership is officially holy. Increased adoration. One fall day, when the weather has begun to turn cold, you receive a knock on your door from a messenger dressed in the Queen's livery, a gold crown above a gold lion rampant on navy blue. The Queen has received word that there is a town wizard here in Accreton, the messenger says. Your heart plummets. And she wishes to extend a better offer than your current one, as it is not seemly for a mayor to have access to a staff that she does not. Oh. That's very different from what you were expecting. She's offering me a position at her court. The messenger nods. Her Majesty offers you a special position as her counsel, he says. You may have your choice of titles and a stipend of 10,000 gold a year. And I can freely perform magic. You inquire hesitantly. Just so, the messenger says, frowning as if he's unsure of the wisdom of this stipulation. The choice is easy. I accept, you tell him. Hunter Ori. Ancient History 2, decent. Fighting 10, amazing. Subtlety 3, decent. Charisma 3, decent. Inventory. Gold 1556 gold. Sword. Charisma ring. Alchemy set. Blue Lux Gladius. Crystal Ball. Tommy the Golem. Chain Armor. Golem Manual. Watches Crystals. Students. None. Pets. Leo the Sphinx. The Dead. Hunter Tal. Blessed Jacob. Student Vera. The Watcher. Hierophant Elizabeth. St. Dan. Plot points. Chapter 1. Yuan and Tal stumbled on an ancient magic academy. You discovered a book of evomancy, and an inquisitor chased you. You found an ancient dueling ground. You captured the inquisitor, but he escaped. You explored the academy library. A divination revealed a potential ally in the form of a golem, so you took a manual on the operation of golems from the library. You gained control of the golem. You made your way through an ancient harpy ball arena. You went around the back way into the auditorium. You went around the back way into the laboratory. The flame from the dragon's breath threatened to consume the whole sunken academy. You escaped the Magic Academy and headed for your hometown of Accreton. Chapter 2. You flew up the coast of the Negative Sea back to Accreton. You created a pet sphinx for yourself. You told your parents that you can use magic. Sir Marie told your fortune with clot cards. You met a hat seller but bought nothing from her. You stopped a thief who stole from fruit seller Fran. You were unable to restart Accreton's old fans, and a death cloud swept through Accreton. After dancing with Tal, you kissed. You and Tal beheaded the dodecapede. You sneaked around Banker Sarah's place. You had Banker Sarah arrested for her role as leader of the anti-shapeshifter group the Twilight Band. Cos and you agreed that you would secretly work for Accreton. Captured by a mob and thrown into some dank catacomb, you heard you had visitors. Chapter 3. Your Inquisitor captors introduced themselves as Blessed Sam and Blessed Jacob. Your captors asked you a few questions. Blessed Sam asked you to heal his pet dragon, Thomas. Sam left you bound, and you remained captured and set to be brought to the capital. Chapter 4. You found yourself captured in the basement of the cathedral. Tal rescued you. You found a university student held in the cathedral dungeon, the last mage left there. You freed the student, whose name was Vera. You invited Vera to explore the cathedral dungeon with you. You entered a room where mages are executed by a murderous golem. The golem killed Vera. You defeated the executioner golem in combat. You found a room that looked similar to a vision of a pleasant afterlife. You found a room full of divination crystals monitored by the many-eyed Watcher. You killed the Watcher. You found the cathedral's library. The Hierophant came to make an offer of sainthood to you. Inquisitors and church guards pursued you out of the capital. You killed the Hierophant and fled the capital. Chapter 5. You used your Lux Gladius to make short work of your pursuers, leaving 2 survivors to report that trying to capture you is a bad idea. You headed back to Acreton. On returning to the market, you discovered it had burned down due to a lightning strike. Satwimsby became the new Hierophant. The Queen offered you a position as an advisor, which you accepted. Chapter 6. The Queen's Court. You await Queen Thekla in her great throne room, a large hall festooned with banners of various important noble houses and busy with gossiping courtiers. The courtiers' main topic of conversation at the moment appears to be you, as you catch darting glances from around the room. But they're subtle, you never quite catch a direct stare. You get the sense that your reputation has preceded you and that they're aware of your crimes. But some of them are also simply commenting on your clothing. What have you decided to wear to court? My leather armor. Plus fighting. My duelist uniform. Plus charisma. My black robes. Plus subtlety. Plus negation. My chain mail. Plus fighting. I quickly purchased some fancy clothing on the way to court. Minus 300 gold. You decide your chainmail will continue to serve your purposes just fine. The courtiers seem to disapprove of the martial overtones of your wearing armor to court. The courtiers' most military actions in the past few hundred years have been to put rebellious nobles in the places. Nasty rumors spread that you want to do away with one noble house or another. Increased vilification. Ironically, the accusations make you all the more needful of the armor. The courtiers' own outfits are highly exaggerated, with long pointed shoes that curl at the tips, and giant feathered hats that must make it a challenge to navigate a crowded room. You suppose they're advertising the fact that they're too important to ever do anything menial. You perform a visual scan of the room to identify who can see and hear what. Balconies afford courtiers on the second level a view of most of the proceedings, but there are areas under these overhangs where individuals would not be able to see. Balconies afford courtiers on the second level a view of most of the proceedings, but there are areas under these overhangs where individuals would not be able to see. The courtiers standing and sitting all along the sides of the throne room look inward, meaning those who wish to be seen by others stand along the sides, while those who wish only to observe take the places in the back. The crowd is thickest and never silent in the back, so you would take your place there if you wish to have a public but quiet conversation. Such observations may help you make your way through the capital's political scene. Gained charisma. Increased adoration. The throne, a large gilded seat flaking at the edges but still commanding, is accompanied by a second seat made of what appears to be pure alabaster. The back of the chair is engraved with a flame, an eye, and a sun. This must be the seat for the Queen's blessed advisor. You briefly wonder whether you'll get a chair as well. A servant in the Queen's navy blue and gold livery emerges from the back door behind the throne and beckons to you. You follow him through the back door and into a passage that seems not to be intended for the public, judging from the old stone walls that appear dusted but unadorned. Burning torches provide the light, there are no windows. The servant knocks on a plain-looking wooden door. "Come in," commands an alto from within. The servant opens the door and you're surprised to find yourself being led into the Queen's bedchamber. The Queen herself sits at a cluttered writing desk. She wears a puffy white dress that sparkles in the light from the barred skylight above. She looks younger than you expect. You knew she was 33, 8 years older than you, but somehow you had expected her to look more middle-aged. Her smooth skin and lustrous long hair admit no ravages of time, but her eyes bespeak hard-earned wisdom and a touch of amusement. You wonder at first where you're supposed to sit the canopied four-post bed. The Queen pushes her chair away from the desk slightly, and the servant drags a cushioned chair out from behind the veiled bed and into position across from the Queen. "Have a seat," Queen Thekla says. "Unless you plan to conjure a better one." Her attitude is pleasant but slightly sardonic. You have the strange sensation of being watched from elsewhere, and you notice tiny embrasures on 3 of the walls where arrows could pass. Protection from assassination seems to have trumped aesthetic concerns at nearly every stage of the palace's design, and you have no doubt you would be full of arrows in a moment if you made any sudden moves. You slowly and deliberately take the seat opposite the Queen. "You must be Mayor Koz's secret wizard," Queen Thekla says. "Indeed," you affirm. "Your reputation precedes you," Queen Thekla says darkly. "But I may yet employ you in secret, since I think I need your services. If you'll just answer some questions." "Of course," you say. "Are the magics of the saints and the magics of the ancients one and the same?" Queen Thekla asks you. "Yes. The Church is engaged in a grand deception." "Yes, but for the good of humanity, this must not become widely known." "No, the magic of the ancients is more powerful." "I see," Queen Thekla says, her eyes sparkling as she imagines the possibilities of your magic. Increased Thekla relationship. Being stronger than the Church could prove useful for changing the balance of power in this kingdom. She frowns slightly. "But I think the people would be unnerved if they ever heard you speak of having a power greater than the Church. I suggest we keep that to ourselves for now." You get the sense that Queen Thekla is weighing not just your power but also whether it is wise to let you speak in public. You're not certain of the consequences of being a secret advisor versus a public one. You're sure each carries its own dangers. "And which of the ancient schools do you specialize in?" Queen Thekla asks. "I have read a little of all 5, in books we have not seen fit to turn over to the Church." Vivomancy. Negation. She says this last word with a kind of naughty grin, but you can't quite tell whether you're being baited. You don't have to be entirely honest, but you suspect the Queen might see through a complete bluff. Negation. I can destroy your enemies if you wish. Automation. I prefer creating wondrous inventions above all else. Glamour. I prefer the power to impress. Divination. Knowledge is power. Vivomancy. The power of life itself is indispensable. "Oh, I see," Queen Thekla says, seeming slightly disappointed. "Things to amuse and delight. I suppose I find that a little charming." She doesn't really, though. The Queen leans forward and steeples her fingers. "Now, tell me about your hopes and dreams," she says. "What is at the end of this road for you?" You find it a bit difficult to answer honestly when it's clear she's trying to evaluate your character and usefulness. But she seems like the sort who finds honesty refreshing, to a point. "I'm just taking things one step at a time. I want to create something really marvelous. I want power, of course. Power is freedom. I find magic fascinating. I just want to learn all I can. I want to do good, however I can, for as long as I can." "I, too, want to learn all I can, but it's in service of a greater goal," Queen Thekla says, chiding you a little. The pursuit of knowledge wherever it may lead is what got the ancients in trouble, I recall. You shrug. Had they known even more, they might have saved themselves. The Queen smiles a little. You're clever. I like that. But just keep in mind that the pursuit of knowledge without limits has a bad reputation in this kingdom. Increased Thekla relationship. And now, I've saved the most important question of this interview for last, the Queen says. To whom do you owe your utmost allegiance? Is it me, or someone else? The Queen says this lightly, as if any answer will do. But you doubt that. I shall be your loyal subject first and foremost. My highest loyalty is to the Church. My highest loyalty is to a higher power, Abraxas. My first loyalty is always to my own conscience. I serve nobody, but I will ally with you for now. Excellent, I'm glad to hear it, Queen Thekla says. Of course, you may be acting obsequious out of the hope that it will win my favor. But as long as you're willing to be obsequious in public, it hardly matters to me. She smiles cheerfully. Increased Thekla relationship. Queen Thekla concludes your meeting by saying, well, I'm satisfied to an extent. You can be my wizard, but I think I want to keep you out of the public's eye. I may be impressed with your brazenness, but I worry about my image if you were to speak so forwardly at court. The same liveried servant who escorted you before is waiting at the door. Servant Pons can show you to your new quarters and provide you with your first payment, Queen Thekla says. Gained 300 gold. Welcome to the palace, Hunter Ori. You take this to mean that Queen Thekla will not officially grant you a new title. That's fine, you're more interested in the power of your unofficial office. Your new room at the palace is what you think is a cleared-out torture chamber, underground and near the Queen's dungeon. You can tell some heavy equipment has been dragged along the stone floors, and there are still little metal nubs in the wall where you assume manacles used to be. Still, it is spacious for all that, and private as well. The Queen must have assumed from your conversation that your magical experiments needed to be far away from prying eyes. At the same time, it's slightly embarrassing, and you will gain practice slipping down here when nobody is looking. Gained subtlety. Your practice of taking the palace tunnels everywhere also acquaints you with some of its lesser-used old rooms containing antiques, curios, and caches of old books. Gained ancient history. Your things arrive from Ekretan in a week. Your furniture and possessions remain roughly the same even if your locale has changed, and you decorate your new room by taking the floorboards from your old apartment and nailing the giant map to the wall. Leo the Sphinx scurries under your bed as soon as it's in place, as comfortable as ever. Your secret room beneath the palace admits more freedom than you would have had in the public eye, and you're able to sneak your golem Tommy into the room. Don't wander out of here without my permission, you tell your golem. The servants might worry they're being replaced. And the last thing I need is to have the servants allied against me. Olikala Dominex, the golem affirms. You know the drill, keep my things safe, and help me with magical experiments as before. Olikala Dominex. When you are nearly done moving into the palace, you find a note at the bottom of the wagon bed. Your mother's neat calligraphy is unmistakable. She must have slipped it under a box while she and your father were helping you move. Ori. We will always be proud of you no matter what you do. But remember what Grandma always said, that the greatest magics in the world are love and hope. And a good joke your father wants me to add. I suppose she did say that once. You are dear to us, magical no matter what you do. Try to do good. Eat healthy. Meet someone nice. Preferably wealthy. You might think that doesn't matter, but it does. Your father is acting all insulted now, but of course I mean that if you find true love you should marry whomever you choose, and if on the other hand you are indecisive, and I know how long you take to make choices sometimes, then it couldn't hurt to have a little more income in the family. Love and hope. Mama. You learn from palace gossip that Blessed Sam has been promoted from being an inquisitor to being the Queen's own blessed advisor, replacing Blessed Advisor Armand. Apparently, the new Hierophant believes that your position as the Queen's magical advisor would be best counterbalanced by someone from the church who is familiar with your case. You expect to disagree with him cordially about a number of things. Shortly after you move into the palace, the Queen calls you to her chamber once again. The Queen, this time, wears a shimmering blue dress with black lace, as formal as the last dress you saw her in. A solemn man in a grey tunic and black cape is bent over to whisper in her ear. He reflexively straightens as you enter. "I believe it's time to let you know why I contacted you," the Queen says. "This is Spy Master Doll." She nods to the man in grey and black. "We received some reports of unusual flying objects near the Negative Sea," Spy Master Doll says. "Our spies have now confirmed that small metal vessels have flown out of the Negative Sea, the hulls apparently impervious to the corrosion of that black cloud. They have flown over several towns near the Negative Sea now. We believe they're scouts. We haven't had an invasion in over 200 years, Queen Thekla tells you. With the mountains to the north and south, and the Negative Sea to the east, our army has only had to deal with the Domitians and the ships from the west. And the occasional insurrection, of course. But we're basically out of practice at warfare, while the Magisterian Empire, they probably never gave up either magic or war, and have been practicing since the Negative Sea separated us. Let's not be hasty," the Spy Master says with a raised hand. "We don't know that they desire war at all. These vessels were magical, certainly, but they were not visibly armed. But they have the technology of the ancients, and we do not. And they can readily see that. Queen Thekla turns to you. And that is where you come in. You must advise us on how to best catch up to the Magisterians. Tell us which magics we need to convince them we aren't backward." You blink at the sudden responsibility. "You're asking me to shape society itself." "Oh, you don't get free rein like that," the Queen says. "I'm bound to listen to the church as well, and they will like none of this. If the people turn against me as a witch, then the kingdom will surely burn. So we must move subtly but swiftly, so that the church cannot turn back the clock." The Queen concludes the meeting, asking you to think about what she has said and to prepare for debates on the subject with her blessed advisor, who shall act as the voice of the church and tradition. Your mind reels as you make your way back to your room. What magics should the kingdom revive, and which should stay buried? It is a big responsibility. But if the Magisterians have only sent scouts so far, you may have a little time yet. The very same evening, you find that the letter has been slipped under your door. "Welcome back to the capital. Please don't hurt me. We can be friends, I swear. Very sincerely. Blessed and Most Holy Hierophant Twimsby." So it appears inquisitors won't be trying to abduct you in the night anymore, probably. You heave a relieved sigh and crumple the letter. The next day, you begin the task of deciding just how far the kingdom of Arinia should advance in magic in a short time. You meet in a private chamber with no windows that you think was once used for intimate dining. There is a round table in the center with 3 ornate wooden chairs spaced an equal distance apart, though the largest and most ornate chair is surely for the Queen. There is a round table in the center with 3 ornate wooden chairs spaced an equal distance apart, though the largest and most ornate chair is surely for the Queen. A crystal chandelier provides candlelight in the middle of the day. The Blessed Advisor is already seated in his chair, and, just as you heard from the palace gossip, it's none other than the erstwhile Blessed Sam. He gets up to greet you. "I heard you were the new advisor," he says. "Congratulations. I'm sure we'll get along splendidly, even if we don't always agree." Queen Thekla wears the most elaborate dress you have seen her wear yet, a floor-length deep blue dress with puffy silhouette and black lace embellishments, and a giant navy blue collar accentuated with tiny sapphires. When she takes her own chair, the deliberations begin. "As you both now know, we need to advance the kingdom in a hurry," Queen Thekla says. She gives Blessed Advisor Sam a steady look. "We can't be too attached to the past. But the Book of Abraxas is our compass," Sam objects. "Without it, we're just making up rules. I have no patience for myths, nostalgia, or fantasy right now," the Queen interrupts, earning a stung look from Sam. "The truth is, there never was a time the world was not changing out from under us. The world has always been in crisis. The old ways are always dying. The world is always being born anew. Let us start with the creation of impressive ships." You can tell Queen Thekla intends to talk around the Magisterian Empire for as long as possible, just in case someone walks in on your conversation. "Hunter Ori, how is it done?" "Automation magic, Your Majesty," you say. "Not only to power the ships themselves but also to create magical factories that achieve a speed of production unmatched by human hands." It suddenly dawns on you that even though conventional wisdom blames the ancients for the perpetual thunderheads above you, the Magisterians may have been using automation for 2,000 years since then, making the storms worse. But if so, they have shown enough restraint to avoid bringing about the end of the world. Can we do the same? The Queen asks. Use magical power instead of animals or human labor to increase production. Blessed Advisor Sam looks as if he's going to be ill at this suggestion. It's dangerous because the world is already on the brink of disaster with the storms wrought by automation magic, you say. But certainly, automation is the most time-tested source of magical power. Well, do you have any other suggestions? The Queen asks. The Church's recommendation would be to encourage people to discover the power within themselves, Blessed Advisor Sam says with some agitation. I know I'm new here, but how can we just start using magic like this? This is crazy. In a less metaphorical sense, negative energy could also be used as a source of power, you say. Ignoring the sense of general approbation in the room, you continue. The dark sun is not inherently evil, its power is just most commonly turned into blasts using negation magic. But it doesn't have to be so uncontrolled. The negative energy beneath the surface of the Earth could potentially provide a source of power that has none of the climate-altering drawbacks of automation. And our mastery over negation would also prove an advantage in the war. You know that general superstition about the dark sun is still rampant, so you decide to close on a brighter note, or, finally, we could engineer beasts to take the place of what the machines might have done. Dodecapeds. Dragons. The food would be a very safe source of energy. And what is your recommendation? The Queen prompts. Let's harness the power of storms, as the neighbors do. Let's harness the energy of the dark sun, greater power without damage to the skies. Let's create beasts of labor that will gain their energy from enhanced foods. We don't need a magical power source, it'll displace human labor and cause chaos. I'm not certain the kingdom is ready for such sweeping changes, you tell the Queen. Any source of magical power would put some human worker out on the street. Moreover, every source of magical power comes with significant drawbacks. Let us apply magic in more tactical ways instead of trying to cause sweeping change in the kingdom. Blessed Advisor Sam breathes a sigh of relief when you say this. Increase Sam relationship. The Queen sighs. You're no doubt right, she says. We should calm down and think of a more prudent approach. Let us suppose, then, that we will not attempt to remake our society but will rely on the increased effort of the people, the Queen says. Doesn't the glamour magic of the ancients inspire? Perhaps it can help me cultivate the kind of dedication that is necessary to— She stops herself from mentioning the neighbors. Bring the kingdom to new glory. The Church would not approve of a secular ruler impersonating a saint with magic, Blessed Advisor Sam says. Please, let the people be in awe of only the saints, so that they may hold goodness in the highest regard instead of power. You weigh whether to warn the Queen about the effects of rot, and decide she would find out soon enough anyway. The Queen blanches at your explanation of rot but murmurs, I am prepared to do whatever it takes to lead the kingdom. But will it be worth it? What do you think? Suggest using a glamour, rotten church be damned. Suggest using divination to communicate with her subjects, building bonds of trust. Tell the Queen she needs no glamour, she's already strikingly beautiful. Flirt. Tell the Queen she needs no glamour, she's already most impressive. The drawbacks of glamours aren't worth it, old-fashioned charisma must win over the people. Next. Unless you want your health to deteriorate, I suggest you stick to old-fashioned charisma, you advise the Queen. Everyone who uses glamour will eventually die from it. So then the saints are all dying as well. The Queen says. Just so, you say. The Queen purses her lips, seeming upset. What about you? The Queen asks you. Have you used this magic, too? A fair amount, I'm afraid, you say. I sometimes have pains in the middle of the night, even when I haven't cast a glamour for a while. The Queen looks sympathetic. Increased secular relationship. Very well, then no glamours for me, the Queen declares. Thank you for warning me. Increased secular relationship. Of course, you say. Very wise, Your Majesty, Blessed Advisor Sam says, looking relieved. Over the next few months, as the snow and cold outside make it easy to decide to stay indoors, you research magics that might stave off the Magisterians without dramatically changing how the kingdom functions. You return to the book you took from the sunken library, Megli Magia, or Great Magic, which was indecipherable to you at the time. Studying it is still hard work, but you begin to understand a bit more about how great magical effects can be wrought. The author asserts that truly great magic requires a great source of magical power. If negation magic is being used, for example, it is not enough to draw from the dark sun must come to you. You aren't entirely certain what the author means by this. Further, the author hypothesizes that every mage has only one truly great work of magic in them, and the spark of inspiration is lost once a true magical masterpiece has been cast. You doubt that this is the case, surely there is a way to cast more than that. But the author asserts that no mage has ever been seen to cast more than one of these spells. If you do have just one truly great spell in you, you decide to wait until you know what it must be. Regardless, the study of Megli Magia proves fruitful in your understanding of all magics. Gained negation. Gained automation. Gained glamour. Gained divination. Gained vivomancy. Something else you realize, as you study the Megli Magia more and more, is that the ancients knew tricks to make magic safer that are lost to you. The book makes passing reference to the precautions every wizard takes. Apparently, wizards are supposed to draw runes and magic circles before casting big spells that reduce the negative side effects of the magic. But you have no idea what these runes and circles should look like or how they work. Oh well. The ancients were a whole civilization that used magic. Surely one person can't be as dangerous as that, even if that person doesn't really know how to use magic safely. Right. Meanwhile, the Queen continues her official business largely as before, as if denying that anything big is about to change in the kingdom. Determining who the factions are at court is a fascinating logic puzzle. If Noble X insults Noble Y, then you carefully watch Noble Z. Does the Noble join in the criticism, or come to Y's support? In this way, you build a mental map of the nobles at court and their alliances. Most importantly, you figure out which alliances you're implicitly in. It's perhaps no surprise that some of the oldest and most powerful guilds don't like you. You represent a threat to the monopolies, and influence magic is an axis on which they can't fight. The oldest dames and dukes also lean conservative, and therefore your implicit heresy does not sit well with them either. On the other hand, many of the younger nobles and smaller guilds welcome your threat to the established order. They hope you'll use magic to upend monopolies, bust trusts, and essentially bring the destabilization that the old guard fears, so that they can have a shot. You could play the games. It might bring you a bit more security at court to reduce the power of the old guard. Use glamours to build bridges between the old guard and new. Sow the seeds of discord among the old guard. Requires calculation. Cast tricky divinations that reveal the old guard secrets to each other. I don't need to get involved in this. You decide you would prefer not to get involved in the great game, as the nobles call it. It doesn't seem all that great to you. Thankfully, the old guard is too afraid of you to do anything to you. You see Blessed Advisor Sam around the palace occasionally, but he seems to always recall a reason to head in a different direction, and you never talk to him outside the Queen's secret meeting place. You soon receive a letter from Mayor Cos detailing what has happened in Accreton since you left. Accreton is apparently the same mildly boring place it ever was, and the local gossip doesn't interest you as much as it once might have. But you appreciate that Cos took the time to write. You finally decide that it's time to take a break from your magical research and treat yourself to spending some of your stipend. Some shops are no longer very relevant to your new life in the capital, but some of the newer shops are quite interesting. Where would you like to spend your money? You have 1856 gold. This is your last chance to spend money before the climax chapter. The clothing store, the pet store, the new magical jewelry store, the weapons and armor store. I'm done shopping. You visit the old weapons and armor store. You notice that the swords and armor are selling at a discount now. Apparently people don't think that melee weapons and physical armor are going to be all that useful in an age of magic. They're probably right, come to think of it. You focus on the items that might be useful against the Magisterians and the negation blasts. 1856 gold. Purchase a shield, which should absorb a single negation blast, for 200 gold. Ask to purchase a negation wand, if they have any, for 1000 gold. Order leather armor with obsidian nodes built in, to stop all magical attacks. 2500 gold, requires automation and negation. I'm done here. What sort of outfit were you looking for? You can have any of these for 300 gold. You have 1856 gold. A dashing outfit that still allows freedom of movement for fighting. The fanciest outfit I can buy, period. I won't get a new set of clothes today after all. Next. You go to the Capital Pet Store, a noisy store full of brass gauges containing all kinds of small, strange monsters, many of which you have trouble imagining as someone's favorite companion. To be honest, you really don't have much of a reason to be here, since you already have Leo, unless you also want a baby dragon. You know with interest that this store also buys pets. Given the variety of other things to buy in the capital, and the fact that you can't sell magical items here, your pet might actually be your only liquid asset besides your gold. You aren't sure what practical benefit you might derive from it anyway. But looking at the price of the Vivomancy creatures, it seems true is worth hardly anything at all. Better to keep the thing around in case it turns out to be useful somehow. What kind of pet did you want? You have 1856 gold. Ask the store to hatch my dragon egg for me. Requires 300 gold plus dragon egg. I want a unique magical hybrid creature. 100 gold. I want a baby dragon. 600 gold. I'm done here. Let's look at some other stores. Choice of Magics by Kevin Gold. Show stats, restart achievements menu. You go to the new jewelry store hoping for a nice selection of magical curiosities. Unfortunately, the demand for magical items appears to have exceeded the supply here in the capital, and the store is full of only one kind of item, silver pendants in various shapes. There must be nearly 100 of them in the display cases, and not a trace of any other kind of magical item. Do you have something that is, but not these? You ask the shopkeeper. Sometimes, he says. Not often. Not now. You suppose this is how stores selling used goods usually work. If the goods were great, people wouldn't sell them off to begin with. You going to buy one? The shopkeeper says. They're supposed to be good luck of various kinds. Unless you wear more than one. Then they just make you feel sick. So don't do that. Running your hand over the different pendants in the display case, you get a sense for what kind of luck they might give. The fox head with her citrine eye is attuned to Vivomancy. The H-pointed star with her sapphire in the center is attuned to divination. And the dove inlaid with alabaster is attuned to glamour magic. The other schools of magic are not represented. Perhaps uses of negation and automation met more unfortunate ends over the years. You can choose one pendant to wear for 100 gold. The fox head pendant attuned to Vivomancy. The star pendant attuned to divination. The dove pendant attuned to glamour. Actually, on second thought, no thanks. Purchase a shield which should absorb a single negation blast for 200 gold. You purchase a shield, thinking that it might be useful once for blocking a negation bolt. Lost 200 gold. What did you want as a crest on the shield? An eye. Your new shield looks rather handsome, and it may come in handy for blocking a magical bolt or two. Gain fighting. Did you want to purchase anything else here? 1656 gold. Purchase a shield which should absorb a single negation blast for 200 gold. Ask to purchase a negation wand, if they have any, for 1000 gold. Order leather armor with obsidian nodes built in to stop all magical attacks. 2500 gold requires automation and negation. I'm done here. The fox head pendant attuned to Vivomancy. You buy the fox head pendant. Lost 100 gold. Slipping it on, you feel your attunement to Vivomancy increase, as well as a certain admiration for the fox's cunning. Gained Vivomancy. Increased calculation. Having bought the pendant you wanted, and recalling the store owner's warning about wearing too many, you leave the pendant store. Where else do you want to shop? I want a baby dragon. 600 gold. Choice of Magics by Kevin Gold. Show stats, restart achievements menu. You pick out a delightful little dragon with light green scales and big eyes. Lost 600 gold. When the shopkeeper frees it from its cage, it squawks and cuddles up to you. You think your heart just melted a little bit. Increased empathy. The shopkeeper informs you that it's a she. What will you name her? Rio. Rio the dragon flies up to find a permanent perch on the shoulder that Leo doesn't already occupy. To your relief, your two pets seem to get along nicely. The dragon squawks with delight and nuzzles your cheek. With both shoulders occupied, you think you probably have enough pets for now. You take your leave of the pet store. Where else do you want to shop? You decide you're done spending your hard-earned money. Meanwhile, Magisterian airships have now been spotted by the general public. The smooth-hulled ships cruise by towns near the negative sea without making contact or even revealing any Magisterian crew. The aerodynamic metal ships equipped with huge wands of negation are enigmatic but certainly do not seem friendly. Fear grips the kingdom as the people worry that not enough is being done to protect against this threat. Increased vilification. We need to consider how to keep the people happy during this time of uncertainty, Queen Thekla says. You are once again meeting with the Queen in your usual private dining room. Things aren't as bad as they think. They're just panicking. If we can get them to focus on something besides the troubles. This is not a problem that demands a magical solution. Blessed advisor some objects before you can give an opinion. The people simply need to have faith in us and in Abraxas. We have done well so far to avoid going too far down the path of magic. Why ruin that merely to develop pet devices to entertain the masses? Queen Thekla casts a skeptical look at Blessed Advisor Sam, as if she's a little tired of his being in the room. Any ideas? The Queen asks you. Teach glamours to entertainers, and use divination to spread their influence. Broadcast the culture of the capital, but without glamours. Tell the people to heed the church, all they need is faith and love. Your Majesty, we have a wealth of entertainments here in the capital that could help lift the spirits of the border towns, you say. Even if they don't hear your voice directly, they will feel your love through these gifts. For once, Blessed Advisor Sam just shrugs. That's reasonable, I suppose. Queen Thekla nods. Let it be so. You go from musician to musician, from one acting troupe to another, offering to broadcast the works to distant towns that they themselves have never visited. They often ask whether they will be able to hear the listeners' applause. You assure them that this is so. Couriers carry large enchanted mirrors to distant towns, and the performers themselves use a giant mirror in the palace garden to broadcast the music and plays to those distant artifacts. The constant performances in the garden create a pleasant atmosphere in the palace, and Queen Thekla approves. Increased Thekla relationship. Meanwhile, you understand that the performances are a great hit in the border towns, which have stopped the worried murmuring about the looming threat of the Magisterians. Increased adoration. You receive a letter from your mother asking you to return to Akriton to sort through some of your things she found in the attic. She threatens to throw them away if you don't come soon. Since you might be better able to understand some of those old artifacts you scavenged now that you know more magic, and since you were looking for an excuse to visit Merkos anyway, you agree to come with all haste. Tell me all about life at court, your mother is saying as she pours you some tea. The smell of peppermint pervades her living room, which is full of quilts and lacy pillows she made herself. Did you meet any of the noble families? Did you meet Queen Thekla herself? I did, you say. The Queen is a fascinating woman. Strong. You would like her, I think. You proceed to relate some stories about life at court. Your father taps out and leaves the house after about 2 hours of such questioning, claiming that there is some pressing business at his construction site. As you relate these stories, you're vaguely aware of a kitchen drawer opening and closing behind you. But you think little of it until you turn and see that your mother is holding a large butcher knife. What is that for? You ask, imagining the answer is something like cake. Your mother lunges at you with the butcher knife. You quickly stand, and though she aimed for your neck, she stabs you in the chest instead. The pain is excruciating. She lunges at you again, and you raise your other arm to block, only to have that arm sliced open. Quickly losing blood, you feel as though you may pass out. You splash your steaming tea in your attacker's face. She shrieks, and you use the distraction to topple the tea table, sending the tea set crashing to the ground. You hide behind the wooden surface. That's not my mother. You have the presence of mind to think. You have moments to decide which spell to cast. Use Vivomancy to heal myself. You keep your hand pressed to your chest and will the dormant life energy. Motes of light stream in from all directions. Me Medicotherapy. Use a glamour to demand she stop. Kill her with a bolt of negative energy. You keep your hand pressed to your chest and will the dormant life energy in your mother's wooden house to flow into the wound. Motes of light stream in from all directions. Me Medicotherapy. You murmur, and the wound seals. You still feel queasy, however. Your mother's impersonator kicks the table away just as you draw your Lux Gladius. The blade of light springs to life and emits a steady hum. Tell me who sent you, you say, clambering to your feet. I'll find out one way or another. Seeing that you've healed yourself and that you're holding a more intimidating blade, your assailant apparently thinks better of attacking you. She runs for the front door. I'm aborting the mission, she cries to nobody in particular. It's time for the backup plan. Someone is listening with a divination. But who? You can't afford to give chase, you're too worried about your real mother. You cast a divination to find out where she is. Mysterion nomi repario meta mea. Your divination reveals your mother tied up in her own cellar. The stone room is mostly empty save for the kegs that stand as a monument to your father's long-abandoned attempt to brew beer. Your mother is lightly dozing as you cut her bonds and gently wake her up. Where am I? Your mother asks. What happened? You're in your cellar, you say. As for what happened, maybe you can tell me. Fruit seller Fran. She came to borrow some sugar, I think it was, your mother recalls. When I let her in, I had hardly shut the door when she knocked me off my feet. She started to tie me up straight away, and that was all I knew about it. Just then, the ground shakes, and you hear a crash from above. Something tells me we need to get out of here, you say. Lead the way, my dear heart, your mother says. You run up the stairs, pause to note that there is now a ragged skylight filled with negative energy residue in the living room, and continue out the front door. You leave your mother's house just in time. Another negative energy explosion levels the house, leaving only a black cloud where it once was. My home. Your mother cries. The shrieks of fleeing Acretonian seem distant as you contemplate the loss of the home you grew up in. Looking up, you see a Magisterian airship, its sleek metal hull looking entirely alien above your normally quiet hometown. The vessel is a smooth half-sphere flanked by large black cannons. A white shaft on a swiveling mount stands at the bow of the strange ship. Its barrel is as wide and tall as a person, making it unlike any cannon you've ever seen. These weapons are manned by figures wearing bull-shaped helmets, grey cloaks, and black enameled chain mail. The powerful automation magic keeping the airship aloft makes all the hair stand up on your body. What in the name of Abraxas is that? Your mother says. Oh, please let this be a dream. Sorry, mother, you say. I think they've come for me, and you're collateral damage. You can't think of a polite way to put it, so you just trail off. The black cannons on the side of the airship swivel and fire to your left and right, leaving craters and clouds of negative energy in the street. As soon as you turn to look behind you, they cut off that means of escape as well, with another blast of negative energy. They're trying to box you in, not kill you, you think. They want to take you alive. Your mother grips your arm in fear. Do something. Blast the airship with negation magic. I cast to glamour and demand the airship leave me and a cretin alone. Take control of the vessel with automation magic. I surrender. If they want me, they can have me, you tell your mother. I think I have a few choice words for them. You raise your hands in the air. What? No. Your mother cries, clutching your arm. The golden beam from the ship's central cannon envelops you, and you are pulled away from your mother up toward the airship that will take you prisoner and transport you to the capital of the Magisterian Empire.